The biggest challenge of covering Donald Trump, particularly on a day like today, is his way of dominating what's known as the attention economy, meaning who can hold people's short attention spans for any amount of time. A late-night social media post throwing out red herrings or holding a weird press conference to further his baseless lies about an airline crash. It's giving inject disinfectant vibes all over again, by the way. And by the time that you catch up and fact-check one thing, he's on to the next. Add to that the blizzard of staged executive orders, so you barely notice that what his administration is actually doing is stumbling, bumbling, and failing, issuing nonsensical orders that they then have to walk back and sending federal agencies and state governments scrambling in a panic. It's frankly exhausting. But nowadays, the truth is that the real power in this world is in the hands of those who can control that attention economy. And unfortunately, the MAGA right is really good at it, since Trump and nearly everyone he's put in key positions are former reality TV personalities, Fox hosts, or podcasters. My friend and colleague Chris Hayes, host of All In, has written a great new book about just that. It's called The Siren's Call: How Attention Became the World's Most Endangered Resource. And Chris joins me now. Chris, I've got the book in my hot little hand. I want it signed. Did I explain the attention economy correctly? And if I did not, please explain it.
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, I think that basically the conceit here is that attention is the world's most important resource, and it's the most important thing both in commercial life, right? All those tech billionaires on stage with Trump are people that basically run attention companies, whether it's Apple or it's X or it's Meta or it's Google. And then in public life, I mean, I think we see how Trump's domination of attention has been kind of his superpower, even though it comes with its own cost. And yes, in the last day, look at this. Last night, there was tremendous attention on the most deadly air crash we've had in years, a horrible tragedy. Trump's immediate thought was how to basically surf off that attention, how to use that attention, and how to push it in the direction he wants towards people of color and women are the problem.
Yeah.
And so you've seen just this, and you know, most politicians would be told, don't go out speculating and saying things. It's not good for the investigation. It's actually probably not good politically. It sounds tone deaf and weird. You'll get blowback. His North Star is what will maximize the amount of tension on me and on the things I want at any given moment. And man, is that on display in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm going to read you too. I'm going to read your same book to you. Trump cares deeply about being admired, you write. Sure, but he's such a broken person, his psychological needs so bottomless that he'll take attention in whatever form he can get. He'll take condemnation, rebuke, disgust, as long as you are thinking about him. Being willing to court negative attention at the cost of persuasion is really Donald Trump's one simple trick for hacking attention-age public discourse. I found that exact same thing when I did my Trump book, is that every person I talked to said the same thing. He just cannot live outside the spotlight for 1 second. It's always got to be on him. It's neediness. How do we manage that as journalists when we have to deal with this man?
And that is, I think, that is such a conundrum because it presents this sort of trolls conundrum, right? That you could just ignore him today, but he's the president of the United States who's trying to essentially blame women and racial minorities for a deadly air crash based on absolutely nothing.
Right.
So it's actually important to tell the truth about what happened and what we know, like you did in your A block, and what the context is. And so, you know, ignoring doesn't quite work. I think the key here is paying attention and focusing on the things that we all think matter and not being whipped around constantly. So one of the things I've been telling myself and I write about the book is that, like, focus is power. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to focus. You saw, I mean, they didn't schedule Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr., three of their most controversial nominees, on the same day. Accidentally.
Right.
They did it precisely to divide focus, right? So what we have to do, both as citizens and as journalists, is find ways to focus. And that means we're not going to get to everything. I mean, I think you and I are both, right, we're wrestling with this in this first 11 days about how to deal with it. And it's also about Democrats and other folks who are opposed to Trump finding ways to get attention for themselves. I mean, that's the other thing, is that the world we live in which this resource is so precious, so contested, and so fought over, that is the context in which politics happen. You can't just pretend it's not that way or not deal with these attentional imperatives. And I think sometimes Democrats sometimes understandably want to just put their head down and do work.
Yeah.
But the world doesn't quite work that way. Politics don't work that way at all.
And by the way, the Democrats who are good at it, right, the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs, normally get set aside by the older Democrats who want to still do things the old way, and it doesn't work at all. I do want to throw in one other thing that you do write about. Elon Musk is basically a different version of Donald Trump. Same thing. He essentially, you write, took over Twitter, right, just in order to force everyone to pay attention to him all the time. If you're on that app, Twitter is literally just his microphone, and it's all about him.
Yes, and in the same way that I think from Trump's deep brokenness led him to this insight that he backed into because he just needs attention so desperately. It's not like he theorized it. Right. The same thing happened to Musk. I mean, Musk really, some part of him, I think, broke from being online, and he backed into it too, and he lit billions of dollars on fire. But what he backed into, in the same way Trump backed into it, because of their psychological brokenness, was the insight that if you pool enough attention together, you have vast power. You can make fortunes out of it, and you can make political fortune out of it. And now here's this guy who has managed to do that. He's bought this attention platform. He's made himself the main character, and now he is utilizing that. He's converting that both into cash in the prices of his stocks because of the power, and political power because of the proximity he has to the President of the United States.
And like Trump, he doesn't care if it's negative or positive attention, right? His little salute thing, he's like, I'm just going to ride even that, even though that's the most possible negative attention you could get.
The perfect example of that was he did the salute not once but twice.
Twice.
I can't read his mind about what was in his heart and what he wanted to do. What I can tell you, though, is after the controversy, he went online and made a bunch of Nazi jokes. So that there's no question about what he knew what he was doing, right? That is the ultimate form of troll politics, and fundamentally that form of troll politics, which I think people are sick of, honestly, and we're going to get a rebellion against, is the kind of dominant mode right now.
The fact that you think that people are going to get sick of it and are going to rebel against it is why I love you, Chris Hayes. You are an optimist to the end. My name is Joy, but I'm a pessimist. See how that's ironic? Chris Hayes, my friend, thank you so much. Author of Here's the Book. It's great. It's called The Siren's Call. Thank you so much. We will see you again in just a few minutes on All In.